agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? Okay, all those in favor of adopting the agenda as presented with that one revision, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We will start with the committee reports by board members. First is the District Activity Advisory Council. Trustee Hager or Trustee Alexander, anything to report this month? Don't fight for the mic. Okay. You can always punt to Mr. Kramer. Great. Okay.
That was exactly kind of covered it.
As we head into the summer, it's nice to kind of wind some of those committees down a little bit. All right, District Policy Committee. Yes, Trustee. And then Trustee Chairs is gone. All right, we're killing it tonight. Awesome. Anything, Mr. Kramer, you think needs to be added?
Actually, most of the work that was done in policy committee is in either old business or in new business this evening.
Fantastic. All right, next is public comment. And so just to remind the public, first of all, if you're new and you have not submitted a public forum card or sheet, you're more than welcome to. They're in the back on that table there. There's still time for you to do that. There's a 5-minute limit, and it's kind of the common sense rules, right? Be respectful, no disparaging language, no cussing or any inappropriate behaviors. The first one will be Dutch Ogburn. Mr. Ogburn, you can go ahead to the podium and then those online can hear you.
I think Mr.
Oop.
is going to turn the mic on.
Coming in hot to turn on the mic for you. Go ahead and start when you're ready.
Okay, good evening, school board members. My name is Dutch Ogburn. I will be a junior at Lingle Fort Laramie High School this fall. I am here tonight to respectfully ask for financial support to help me participate in the Wyoming All-State Marching Band. I was selected to be a member of the drumline after completing an application, receiving a recommendation from my band director, and auditioning for my position. To be eligible, I will also have to remain in good standing at school and continue participating in my school band program. This fall, I will represent Lingle Fort Laramie High School and the state of Wyoming in the Cody Stampede Parade, Sheridan Parade, Cheyenne Frontier Days Parade, and the Thanksgiving Parade in Hawaii. The total cost for this opportunity is $4,080. So far, I have worked to pay most of it myself. Currently still owe about $1,500. I've earned money by working for my parents and local ranchers doing jobs like picking up pipe in fields. This summer, I also plan to continue working for the Zumbrennan Ranch, fixing fence, helping with branding, and doing whatever work is needed. My school also helps support me through a concession stand during a basketball game, which I really appreciate. We were also just contacted and told the price of the trip has increased $160 due to fuel expenses. It was going to go up close to $600, but they were able to negotiate that down so the band could continue. If you have any questions, my contact information is 307-401-0061, or email is dutchogburn1@gmail.com. My band instructor, Mrs. J, has supplied the school district with a link to my account to make any money donations. This opportunity means a lot to me. I worked very hard to earn my place in this band. I know the district helps supports students participating in district and all-state band activities. And I'm respectfully asking for your consideration and support with this opportunity as well. Thank you for your time and consideration tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Ogburn. Next for public comment is Brent Anderson.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. I'll be talking on an issue. We've got some other speakers here that'll be talking on it too. My name is Brent Anderson. I'm the president of the Yoder Fire Protection District. I'm also a candidate running for county commissioner. And I'm bringing an issue to your attention about the sand silica air quality issue in the Yoder school and the surrounding town. In the interest of time, and because we have some people that'll share some additional facts and figures, I'll keep my comments fairly brief, kind of like a movie trailer. Speaking of movies, my family and I were scrolling through a streaming service a few weeks ago and landed on a legal drama released in 2000 called Erin Brockovich. Julia Roberts played the main title character. She was the good guy of the movie. The movie's a true story about a legal case against Pacific Gas and Electric Company over its culpability in groundwater contamination. It's a good movie. I suggest you watch it or rewatch it if it's been a while. In real life, Pacific Gas and Electric settled a case for $333 million. In 2006 money, it would be more like $680 million. The point of bringing that up is fixing the problem would have been much more cost effective for this company than having to pay out legal fees. The research shows that silica sand is as dangerous as breathing in asbestos. Let that sink in. As dangerous as asbestos. My question to the school board is, what is the procedure if you discovered a school that had airborne asbestos floating around in and outside of the school? What would that procedure be? I don't know. I leave that up to you. I have an additional question. And this is a broader question for the broader community, the school board, the county, and to Dietzler Construction Corp. That is causing this silica sand issue. If a movie were made about this situation 10 to 15 years down the road, who's going to play you? Is it going to be a beautiful leading lady like the likes of Julia Roberts or a dashing hero like Tom Holland? More importantly, in this hypothetical feature film, will you be one of the good guys that stood up to protect children, to protect the citizens of Yoder, to protect the firefighters who work and live in the area? Or will you be that character, you know, the one the audience loves to hate, one of the bad guys, or even worse? Will you be one of those background characters who didn't want to get involved? I'm here tonight because I don't want to point to the movie credits rolling up the screen and say to my grandchildren, look, that was me. Where, Grandpa? Right there. See, it says bald guy with beard, a background character. Well, I am a bald guy with a beard, but I've decided not to be a background character. My name's Brent Anderson. Look for me in the credits. I pray all involved in this situation will make the same choice. Be one of the heroes. Stand up for children, stand up for the citizens, and for the firefighters. I think this issue really needs some serious attention and looked into. Again, the silica sand issue, air quality issue in one of your schools and where the football field is as dangerous as breathing asbestos. And we need to bring this issue to light and protect the kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. One thing that I failed to state, and this is completely on me, is the preference is that we not use names. So if we could avoid that in the next couple of comments, public comments, that's greatly appreciated. You know, this is not a court, and it's meant to allow you, you know, the opportunity to speak and say your piece, but if we could avoid using specific names of companies or individuals, that would be greatly appreciated. Next on our list is Andrea Kinnison. Hope I'm saying that right.
Good evening. I'm Andrea Kinnison from Grover, Colorado. And I am here, a stranger in your community, at your meeting, and you may be asking why. I too have wondered how strange it is that God brings me here. I come before you, an alumni of EWC, a former player of the late great Viral Petch, who's probably okay with me saying his name, a teacher of 20 years, a wife, a mom, a grandma, a born and raised rancher, and as someone who will go to any length to protect those dear to me. And because I believe that every parent expects the same commitment of protection while students are at school. About 40 days ago, my family's world was turned upside down. Frac sand from Yoder, Wyoming was being hauled through my ranch, an estimated 600 semi-trucks every 24 hours to an unpermitted frac sand transloading site right next to my home and land. With hundreds of loads of sand rolling through our ranch, everyone and everything was getting fogged with frac sand. And most importantly, my 2 young grandchildren were inhaling frac sand dust, potentially full of cancer-causing silica that once respirated will remain in their lungs forever. Eventually, the oil company stepped up and suspended the operation, choosing my family and community over money and convenience. During this fight for survival, several people from the Yoder community began reaching out to me. I am horrified by what I have learned is happening in the air in Yoder. I am here tonight before you to ask what lengths you will go to in order to protect the long-term respiratory health of your students. I believe the leadership of Southeast has an obligation to ensure the air your students are breathing is clean and safe. With the frac sand processing facility in Yoder in such close proximity to the Southeast campus, this raises legitimate concerns about whether respirable silica dust, a known carcinogen, is reaching the property and infiltrating the school building. There's a possibility that students are frequently being exposed to and inhaling silica. This is not safe, and ensuring the safety of all students in all aspects of their learning environment is one of the most important responsibilities you have, in my opinion. Respirable silica is composed of particles so small they can remain airborne for extended periods of time and may be present even when no visible dust exists. A safety data sheet for 100 mesh frac sand, the same grade processed at this facility, carries the signal word danger. It states the product may cause cancer and causes damage to organs through prolonged and repeated exposure if inhaled. It lists 2 GHS hazard classifications: carcinogenicity, category 1A, and specific target organ toxicity, repeated exposure, category 1. That is the highest carcinogen category under the GHS system used in the United States. The IARC, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, classifies crystalline silica once inhaled as a group 1 human carcinogen. The same classification as asbestos. Once inhaled, microscopic silica particles can lodge permanently in the lung tissue, potentially causing silicosis, an incurable progressive scarring of the lungs with no treatment and no cure. Long-term exposure is linked to lung cancer, COPD, and kidney disease. Children are especially vulnerable because their respiratory systems are still developing. The possibility of permanent lung damage occurring in an environment where children spend a significant portion of their lives should cause concern. My request is simple: commission independent air quality testing that specifically measures respirable silica. Provide transparent results to parents, staff, and the community. If the testing demonstrates the air is safe, that information will provide reassurance. If the testing identifies a problem, then appropriate and immediate steps should be taken to protect students and staff. Just as you would not knowingly expose students to asbestos, the same care should be taken in regards to respirable silica. No child should have to risk long-term respiratory health simply to go to school. If airborne silica is present inside the school, stop letting kids breathe that air. If airborne silica is present outside the school, on the track, on the playground, or on the football field, stop letting kids breathe that air. Your students deserve to breathe air free of respirable silica, a known carcinogen that will stay in their lungs for the rest of their life. I thank you for letting a perfect stranger have 5 minutes of your time.
Thank you, Ms. Kinnison. Next is Tyler Warner.
Ready? Good evening, board members. My name is Tyler Werner. I live in Yoder with my wife and my 2 asthmatic children who attend Southeast. My children are the 4th generation to attend school in Yoder. I am here tonight because I believe Goshen County School District has a right and a duty to understand what the public record shows about the facility operating less than 6 city blocks from your K-12 campus. That facility, I can't name it. What I am about to share comes entirely of Wyoming Department of Environmental Quality documents, public records, and from the oil company's own safety sheet for the material this facility processes. I have copies available if the board would also like one. A pattern of violations and not just one single incident. The first violation was in March 30th of 2022. They exceeded their land acreage that they were allowed to mine. The second violation was June 13th, 2022, and that was an air quality division. Both the mine and the plant received violations. At the processing facility, inspectors observed uncontrollable fugitive dust emissions and found the company had never reported its construction commencement date as required by permit. At the mine, the company failed to apply required dust suppressants to haul roads and to work areas, and also failed to keep how much material was also being hauled. The third violation, November 29th, 2022, stack testing as well at the plant found that one of their drums was emitting a 0.068 grams per dry standard cubic foot. The permitted limit is 0.025. That is 2.7 times the legal limit from their dryer alone during a required emissions test. This was not fugitive dust from the wind. This was from the facility's primary processing equipment measuring under controlled testing conditions. The fourth violation, this one is still open and it occurred April 2nd, 2025. It remains open as of today. Stack testing from one of their dryers, emitted particulate at 0.0841 per dry standard cubic foot, more than 3 times the permitted limit of 0.025. The same test found carbon monoxide emissions from that dryer at 2.76 pounds per million against the permitted limit of 0.082 pounds per million, more than 33 times the permitted CO limit. In the cover letters for violations 2, 3, and 4, Wyoming DEQ wrote that it was considering recommending referral to the State Attorney General's office, requesting a civil action be filed in district court. This is not a routine language. That is a regulator signaling that it views this operator's ongoing failure as a serious matter warranting judicial intervention. The IARC, International Agency for Research on Cancer, classifies crystalline silica inhaled from occupational sources as a group 1 known human carcinogen, the same classification as asbestos. What the air quality data shows near your school. On October 8th, 2024, Wyoming DEQ's own air quality monitor recorded a PM particulate monitor reading of 471.5 micrograms per cubic meter. The federal 24-hour legal limit is not to reach 150. That reading was more than 3 times the federal limit. Wyoming DEQ's district engineer determined it in writing that the reading pointed to to this facility that won't be named, that it was not wildfire smoke. The Torrington monitor only read 77 at the same hour. The most recent high reading came on June 8th, 2026 at 3 a.m. The sensor had a PM10 reading of 962.5. That is 6 times more than the legal limit. Your school HVAC systems, when recently changed, were described by maintenance staff as the worst in the entire Goshen County district, full of silt, dirt, and sand. The district has already responded by increasing filter changes from 2 to 3 times per year. Your own building maintenance personnel are telling you something's not right with the air in Yoder. OSHA and NEOSH have authority over respiratory protection in occupational settings. They do not have authority over public air quality. There is no federal agency whose primary mission is protecting the respiratory health of the general public from industrial neighbors. That authority rests with state and local governments. And for the students in your buildings, it rests primarily with the board as well. What we're asking is the board to commission independent quality air testing and respirable crystalline silica and around Southeast Campus. We're asking you not to wait for the DEQ to process to run its course before acting on the precautionary responsibility you have to these children. The current sensor the state has is placed under the town water tower and is considered a low-cost system, meaning that the DEQ provides data but isn't allowed to act on violations because of this sensor. It's very concerning seeing the fact that the sensor data is public knowledge and clearly shows a stretch of readings above the legal 150. The question for the board is simple. Do you know what is in the air the students are breathing? And if you don't, given everything in the public record, isn't it time to find out? Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Samuel Foster.
Thank you for the opportunity to share with you guys. Imagine, if you will, being 11 years old and inviting a friend over to your house, wanting to have a sleepover, and you ask your parents, "Mom, Dad, can we have a camp out in the backyard?" Well, no, absolutely not. "Mom, Dad, can we go play outside?" Well, no, there's too much dust in the air. "Mom, Dad, can we go sleep on the trampoline tonight?" No, there's way too much dust in the air. You wake up every morning and you find a film of dust covering your cars. You do any projects on your house and you find dust layering your house. All of your windows, which are supposed to seal and keep contaminants out, seep in the corners, dust into your home. We moved here about 5 years ago. We moved away after I graduated Frontier in 2020, Frontier School of the Bible. We were away for about a year. We found our house in Yoder and we decided to move back. Part of the decision to move back was because we wanted to be back at Southeast for our special needs son and for the other 3 children that we have who were thriving at Southeast before we left. Had I known what I was moving my family into, I would have never, ever crossed the threshold of that house. We've been here for 5 years. I worked for said plant in Yoder for 18 months. I went from a labor hand all the way up to a foreman. Ultimately, I was fired. And so I don't stand here as a disgruntled employee to you, though it may seem that way. I do stand here as somebody who has some experience. I came to work for you guys nearly 5 years ago as a sub bus driver, and I worked my way through as a sub custodian. I ultimately became a route driver and then became head custodian at Southeast for the last 2 years. I'm moving over to the transportation department as we speak. I still hold the role of head custodian interim, I guess. It's been a 3-month, 2-week notice. But I'm here to tell you that there is dust in your building. I can't speak for maintenance, but I can tell you that on multiple occasions, I've walked into the weight room with north-facing doors and had 4 feet of dust onto the floor as we had south winds heavily headed toward the school. I've struggled for the last year with my crew to be able to keep the elementary gym ready and prepared for basketball games because it is constantly dusty. Now, obviously, these are speculative as to whether or not that dust is just because we live in dry, dusty Wyoming, or the fact that it might be from said plant that we're discussing right now. And so I too would ask you to take seriously the things that are being asked of you and to take the time to do some independent testing as well. I also would tell you that I have been at the football games. I have watched as your neighbors and your friends and your students and your teaching staff have all been walking around the football field, breathing the dust particles that you can see floating in the air in our big Musco lights. I can also tell you that I have watched not only my daughter, but the rest of the track team, as they have ran through Yoder, prepping for track meets, through clouds of dust coming from the north and hitting hard on those days, and being told by my daughter that we were required to continue to run by the coaches. I'm asking you to take this seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we've got the superintendent's report. Mr. Kramer?
So the only piece of mine that I have, I'm gonna get up onto sharing. 1 moment. Apologize. Sharing the average data that we have, enrollment data from May in this column here, F, and then column G being the last previous month. We increased enrollment at all buildings from the previous month. We did have one decline in one building, so it wasn't all buildings, excuse me. We did decrease from 313.72 to 312.29 at THS. All others increased. Overall, as a district, we had increased to 1,572. That is an increase from the previous May by about 5 students. So that's encouraging data that we did have that increase. One of the things that we still have concerns about are our younger grades, as we still have some enrollment trends that are concerning, as our highest enrollment is at the higher grade levels. That is a nationwide data point also, so it is not just unique to Goshen County, but one that we will certainly be aware of as the years progress. And as we start having the kindergarten roundup that we've already proceeded in the spring, but then the finalizing of enrollment in August. And that is everything that I had in my report.
Great, thank you. Next is the consent agenda. Is there any desire to pull any of the items in the consent agenda? Not seeing anyone wanting to pull anything from the consent agenda, I would entertain a motion to approve.
To approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second? Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is old business. The first item of old business is to consider approval of the proposed new district policy 5111, which is the student use of cell phones, smart devices, and other electronic equipment. This is the second and final reading. May I have a motion? Not everybody all at once.
I would move to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Okay.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor of approving District Policy 5111 on its second and final reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mike, just so you know, it didn't look like that reset for that vote. Okay. Next is new business to consider approval of superintendent salary for the 26-27 school year. May I have a motion? Is there a second? Any discussion or questions?
Madam Chair, I do have, I guess, a discussion and a question.
Okay.
A few meetings ago, we received some templates for conducting the evaluation of our superintendent.
Mhm.
And I think for the most part, they were different variations of what we've already had, with the exception of one thing. On the, what I believe was the modern version, I think it was called, it actually did at the back have a slot for 3 goals. And I wanted to suggest, I suppose it would probably have to be in the form of a motion. I would like this board, before the end of this year, before December 31 of this year, that we actually establish verifiable, quantifiable goals for the position of superintendent. Because the times that we've gone and done these assessments, one of the things that's obnoxious about it, I guess is the word I'll use, is it's very subjective. The 1 through 4, does he do this? Does he do that? Does he do the other thing? Some things we can know about, some things we're not even sure if we really can know about. And it really comes across as sounding like, well, we're happy to pay him this money as long as he promises not to burn the place down. It's kind of how it comes across. So I would ask that there be an amendment added to this approval, that before the year is out, this board, and of course with the input from Superintendent Kramer, that we establish quantifiable, verifiable goals. And we'll probably have to revisit those goals as time goes on, because once goals are accomplished, then we have to look at new ones. And they need to be attainable, they need to be reasonable, but we haven't done that yet. And so I wanted to take this opportunity to suggest that we should do that before the year's out.
Trustee Goulart, I appreciate that. In fact, under board discussion topics tonight, I was going to bring exactly that up. And if you'd like to keep your amendment, that's up to the board. But I am going to be asking this board, we will be conducting Mr. Kramer's evaluation in July, and I am going to be asking this board to come with 3 goals. So, you know, whether you want to call them verifiable or objective or however you want to call them or classify them, just so the public knows. A lot of times when we do these evaluations, it's very form oriented. It's checking boxes, and as Trustee Goulart mentioned, it's 1 if you're not satisfied, 4 if you are, and it's just difficult when you're evaluating a human being to fill those types of things out. So we've talked for quite some time, months, about changing the evaluation process, and just can't seem to get it accomplished. Trustee, well, anyway, so we've worked on it, and Trustee Steinbach has started that process in finding us a new evaluation process. We just haven't completed it. So I agree with you 100%, but that is something that we are going to be doing in July, and likely we'll have a I don't know if we call it a work session or a special meeting, so that we can sit down and talk through that.
Then, Madam Chair, I would ask for a second so we can lock that in and make it happen.
Okay, so when you say you'd ask for a second, you're meaning on your amendment?
Yes, a motion to amend the approval to include that before the year is out, this board will establish those goals.
Okay. I really don't have any problem with that. I don't know that it's necessary to have the amendment, but I have no problem with that. Is there anyone willing to second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion or questions? And just to be clear, what is being asked of this board is to approve the 26-27 salary of Superintendent Kramer with the amendment that we have these verifiable goals, just to use Trustee Goulart's language. Everybody understand that? All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to accept the resignation submitted by a certified staff member at TMS Halftime Physical Education, Trenton Weiss. May I have a motion? Is there a second? Any discussion or questions? Okay, all those in favor of accepting the resignation submitted, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is consider the approval of the 26-27 student handbooks as presented. May I have a motion? Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion or questions? No, he loves that you read them. Great. Thank you, Trustee Sharp. Appreciate that. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Just a question, Mr. Kramer. So first of all, administrators, I greatly appreciate the fact that you highlighted your changes. There's no way we as board members could have figured that out. So I appreciate that. The one thing, and this could be user error, and I will publicly admit if that's it, I didn't see highlights on the discipline matrix. I only saw highlights in the policies. Did you guys see highlights in the discipline matrix? So where I'm going with this is, were there changes to the discipline
Yes.
matrix? Okay.
A lot.
Oh,
Like actually, it should have been mostly.
I got about 12 sets. Okay, okay. As of today or yesterday, right. Right, so did you guys see highlights on the discipline matrix, like at the end where it's like in a table? Did you see highlights there? Because I didn't, okay. So I don't know how you handle that, and I should have brought this up to you sooner, I'm sorry. You've been traveling and I've been traveling, but how are we to know what changes have been made to the discipline matrix then?
I'm going to. Yeah,
Is this something where I'm just gonna smack myself for even asking? Yeah.
Possibly. That's I'm just gonna bring it up here quick.
And maybe it
It
just
should have,
didn't,
it should have been
like,
in the file 6 dash discipline matrix 6 dash 2 dash 2026. And it would've-
again, it's very possible I just missed it, because we were sent each schools separately. Would that have come from Lorraine?
it would have come from me.
Oh, for you, maybe that's why it was.
Yes, you did. This one should have been directly from me.
Do you know when you sent it?
Give me 1 second here.
I have lots of data, like you've sent LaGrange data, Lincoln Southeast data, LFL data, trail data. Connected to their handbook. Oh, a separate. I will fully admit too that I'm having problems with my emails getting kicked to junk. So
Let's approve ones that you have viewed, and then
Okay.
I will work on the other piece of that. We'll work on the other piece.
But okay, so can we just handle just handbooks that
Yep.
do not include the discipline matrix? Okay. Not that I think there's a problem with the discipline matrix. I just don't remember. Did you get a response email back from me?
That's what I'm looking for.
Because I almost always try to say at least thanks so that
Yep.
you know that I got it.
Oh, I know where I think I did get one response, but let me check.
Okay, so as a board, can we move forward then with approving each school's handbook, and then we'll come back to the discipline matrix just to make sure we've all reviewed it? Is that an acceptable way to go about it? Okay, so I can't remember. Yeah, we have a motion pending. And so just to be clear, the motion pending is just to approve the handbooks as presented for each school, okay? All right. Any other questions or discussion? I don't want to cut that off. Okay. All those in favor of approving the 26-27 student handbooks as presented, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Then you want to come back to discipline matrix?
We'll do that. We can do that in July.
Oh, okay. So I don't know if you guys heard that. We'll just come back to the discipline matrix in July. Does that work? Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to throw that
No
at you,
problem.
but.
Get her figured out.
All right, next is to consider approval of proposed revisions to district policy 5117.10. This is the assignments of students to schools. May I have a motion? Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? And this is the first reading. Okay. All those in favor of approving the proposed revisions to district policy 5117.10, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of proposed new administrative regulation 3 to district policy 364130. This is the school bus scheduling and routing as presented on first reading. May I have a motion? Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion or questions?
I do have a question.
Sure.
Is this is a brand new policy. This isn't something we've had that we took out of, did we take this out of the other policy we just approved? Or this is, what is?
Is this the brand new policy?
So this is the brand new one, correct? It's a new admin regulation.
Okay,
So it's being added to a policy on admin reg.
okay. But in terms of practice, this is what we've always, I mean, this is kind of the practice that we've always followed.
Correct. Yes.
Just put it in right.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
Sorry, I should have
Thank
understood
you
what
for
you were
that.
I
asking
didn't
for.
ask the question well.
No, it is not changing any of our current practice.
Okay, thank you.
It's just adding an admin reg to have that along and considered with the policy on school bus scheduling. And it actually kind of moves some of the pieces that were in policy to admin reg and some of that language also.
Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate that. Any other questions? Okay. All those in favor of approving proposed new administrative regulation 3 to district policy 364130, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of proposed revisions to district policy 5113, which is student attendance as presented on first reading. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion or questions? Okay. All those in favor of approving the revisions to district policy 5113 as presented on first reading, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is consider approval of proposed revisions to district policy 5113.50, which is students withdrawing from school. This is presented on first reading. May I have a motion? Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion or questions? Okay, lively bunch tonight. All those in favor of approving proposed revisions to district policy 5113.5 as presented on first reading, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of proposed revisions to district policy 5131.7. This is the interscholastic athletics and school activities as presented on first reading. May I have a motion? Is there a second? Any discussion or questions? Okay. All those in favor of approving the proposed revisions to district policy 5130.7 as presented on first reading, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of authorizing district business manager to pay fiscal year end bills by June 30, 2026. May I have a motion? Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor of approving, authorizing the business manager to make payment of all fiscal year-end bills no later than June 30 with information that was presented, at the July board meeting, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of transfer of funds for the Lingle Gymnasium HVAC project in the amount of $25,000. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion or questions? Trustee Steinbach?
Why do you complain all the time in here that it's too
Cold.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this is a capital construction project that was in the works, is in the works of design. With the project, there always has been the understanding that we would like cooling in that gym. Per school facility standards, school facilities money cannot pay for cooling. When recalibration came into play, they can't pay for cooling in gyms. They can in classrooms, I'm sorry. When recalibration came into play, effective July 1, general fund dollars cannot pay for enhancements. Cooling is classified as an enhancement based upon school facilities not being able to pay for cooling in gyms. Thus, it's necessary, if this is something we want, we need to do the transfer from general fund prior to July 1 because of recalibration.
As a follow-up, after July 1, if Southeast were to want to, or were to be able to put cooling in their gym, would that also would it not be available, or we would just have to pay for it?
In order to put cooling in a gym, it's classified as an enhancement,
Okay.
and it would have to be funded through fundraising, booster club, something of that sort. It could not be general fund dollars.
Okay.
So that, just to be clear, that this enhancement, this specific one is 8,000. So the additional 17, if we get it under the wire, allows us to use it if we want to do enhancements at some of our other facilities. Is that the thinking?
The process is 8,000 is the estimate coming from the engineer. There's $17,000 in contingency. I'm one of those people that is always conservative, and $8,000 to me seems very low. And so the fact that we can't transfer money in the future without the legislature again changing rules, I am requesting to transfer an additional 17,000 in order to provide contingency for this project. This is for this project.
Okay, so to be clear though, if it turns out maybe lightning strikes and we get away with $8,000, that money can still sit there, or do we only get one bite at the apple as far as using it for capital construction?
When this project is completed, then it should be transferred back to general fund. If this board were to choose, I'm not going to tell you you couldn't transfer it to another project. We really need to get through the project and see what our cost is before we go making any kind of decisions for future projects.
And Ms. Cates, the 8,000 is for just design, right?
No,
It's not for
That's
gymnasium
construction.
RTU design. It's for construction as well. Okay. Okay. Boy, is that confusing then, because it says this $8,000 cost delta represents the amount the school district would be responsible for to address the enhancement of adding cooling capabilities to gymnasium RTU design. But you know, like we don't need to mince words, but like you're positive it's for construction, not just the design.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. All right. Any other questions or concerns? Sure.
dollar purchase and we had a $10,000 credit, so we only needed 8,000. I see that on page 61.
This is what
I
happens
just
when board
wanna
members try to do the math.
Understand it better.
what they're stating, they're trying to balance it, and this is where what the engineers put into play makes me very nervous, and that's
Oh,
part
well,
of
yeah,
my
that-
contingency.
That's why I'm trying to understand it, because I don't understand.
The package one is the gym package.
Okay.
Theoretical is what the engineer is saying it will cost. The design is what they're using if you look at price per square foot. That is where that credit is coming into play. They're taking the price per square foot being 18,000, and then they're saying, but if you look at the difference between the two, there's a credit, and they're balancing it to get to the $8,000 delta or variance. To me, $8,000 is very unlikely anytime you look at a construction project.
Yeah.
I had to have, per the school facilities, this kind of a document from the engineer in order to request the transfer. Ultimately, what's going to happen is when we bid the project, the contractor is going to have to say, this is the cost for heating, this is the additional cost for cooling. There's a hope that there will be no cost, thinking that adding cooling is going to be very minimal, if any. However, until we get to the bid day and we see what the contractor comes in at, we don't know.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. All those in favor of approving the transfer of funds for the Lingle Gymnasium HVAC project of $25,000 from the general fund to the capital construction fund, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Cates, too, just as a side, I appreciate you looking that far ahead with recalibration and helping us to plan for that. So I appreciate that forward thinking. Next is to consider approval of purchase and installation of district bus fleet cameras. May I have a motion? So moved. Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion? And just to be clear, this is 64 bus camera systems from REI in the total amount of $384,100 or $384,174.68. This is reimbursable from transportation. Any questions or concerns? Yes.
Are we replacing cameras, or is it a whole new system that we've never had before, or?
Madam Chair, members of the board. First off, this was part of the preliminary budget that was presented when we talked through this in May, and this is a complete replacement. Todd Warner, our transportation supervisor, is back there by Mike, and he's researched, he's put these two proposals into play that I'd recommend we request him to explain it.
You got a mic, Mr. Warner? Do you have a mic?
I'm pretty loud.
If here's the problem, we can hear you, but the people online can't hear you. Sorry. I thought Mr. Harberts would have been like fancy and had your own microphone back there, but he didn't. Thanks for being here to answer our questions too.
Absolutely. All right, so yes, what we're doing is, I mean, we've had camera systems that were installed in 2016. One of the companies that is on this bid is the company that we have been utilizing. Unfortunately, you know, they're about $40,000 higher than what the REI company is what you're seeing. So yeah, it's gonna be a replacement plus a better placement of cameras per bus. The way they're situated now, they're down the middle of the bus. The problem with that is you get to the center of the bus and the way they're back to back, we miss 4 seats. New installation will be on the sides, gives you a better view into the seats. You know, the seats now are higher backs than what they used to be for safety reasons. It's hard to see into those seats. And so the side view cameras will give us a better view into every seat. So yes, I mean, it's a new system, but it's not, the company that we're dealing with, this is what they do. So did I answer your question as far as that goes? Chris? Okay. So what I was told when I was receiving the bids, the Seon Corporation is who we have now. It's Safe Fleet, but Seon Company. If it would have been 2017, then we could have potentially upgraded just the cameras themselves instead of having to completely go through and redo the whole system. I don't know if there's any value in that. Now we're not going to throw them away when they come out. We will store them. I don't know. I mean, I will definitely find out if there's a use for them somewhere else that maybe we could either sell or, I mean, they're pretty old. We've got the full use out of every one of them. So, yeah.
Todd?
Yeah.
So a question, it says that for the first year, we will have cellular data service as part of so what happens after that?
Well, this cost includes the first year of cellular data. So then after that, of course, we will, yeah, it's going to be paid within this, within the bid. It's included in the first year, and then it'll be renewed annually as we go forward. Again, and that is also reimbursable through the state. Yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions for Mr. Warner while he's here? Thanks again for
Absolutely.
coming in. Appreciate that. All right, all those in favor of approving of the purchase and install of the district bus fleet cameras, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of maintaining district community eligibility provision status for the 26-27 school year. This is board discussion and consideration. Do we want to elaborate on that before we ask for a motion?
We can go ahead and ask for a motion.
Okay. May I have a motion?
Making a motion for discussion, is that what we're doing?
Is that, I guess, do we know what we're asking for?
So. It was just consideration, correct?
It's consideration. This is something that year over year comes back to the board. And this is your opportunity to discuss CEP, and ultimately if and the preliminary budget shows the transfer, but we do need the action of continuing or maintaining
With our CEP program.
status.
Okay.
So I would just ask for a consideration.
Can somebody briefly, just for everybody's benefit, tell us what CEP is? I mean, you guys in education like your acronyms.
Oh,
so-
yeah. So the community eligibility provision that we've had the last 2 years provides free meals for all families in the Goshen County School District, regardless of free and reduced lunch eligibility. It provides those meals for breakfast and lunch. It also then allows us the ability to have not utilize the free and reduced lunch applications, which have been in our past experiences. We found that not all who qualify apply, and therefore it also creates an imbalance of numbers. And then also too, one of the things that we had existing quite regularly prior to the last 2 years was large unpaid lunch balances. And so this was a large undertaking for secretaries, principals, and collections within that department. And so that has alleviated this through a one application system through the district.
Great. Thank you.
I would ask Marcy to add anything else to that she might find also.
The only thing that I would elaborate on is this, it would be year 3 of CEP. Year 1 was a baseline year. Year 2, which was last year, our certifications actually went up, so our percent of reimbursement increased. in increasing that allowed us to restart our 5-year time frame. So if approved tonight, our certification numbers aren't going up, but we're allowed to use last year's for a total of 5 years. So this would be year 2 of a 5-year window versus year 3.
And so the board is being asked tonight then whether or not we are interested in considering doing CEP again, but then we will be presented with like formal numbers and so forth. Is that how this works?
It can be. In the past, it's been a decision of this board meeting to maintain
Okay.
the community eligibility provision.
Okay.
We are asked by the state by the end of June to designate whether or not we are going to continue.
Okay. So because of the state report at the end of the June, this board needs to make a decision as to whether or not we continue CEP. Okay. With that, can we get a motion approving that we continue with the CEP?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, further discussion or questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
So, and you, I think said this, but it was in the preliminary budget. So we've seen the numbers already, I think.
Thank you for that.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
So the ship has sailed. I guess my question tonight was going to be, I would have loved to have seen a side by side of what it would look like financially for us to go back to the free reduced lunch program versus CEP. Because the only clue we really have to go on is I was looking at the audit numbers from previous years. And in the year before we started CEP, we transferred $50,000 from the general fund into the food service program. Subsequently, this will be the second time or at least the second time, that we've transferred over $500,000 from the general fund into the food service program. And I wonder if we were to go back to the free reduced program, and even if our goal wasn't even to save any money, what a substantial improvement could we do to our food service offerings if we were taking what money we would be saving, I guess you could say, even if we didn't divert that money in other directions. For example, we know that athletics is not shored up. We've had discussions about BOCES needing some more money. So I guess my question would be is, if we were to go back to free reduced, would that give us some options to either divert the money in other directions or address some of the concerns that we've had from parents brought to us here recently about potentially improving the quality of the food that we're offering at all the schools?
Ms. Cates?
Madam Chair, members of the board, what you're seeing with only a $50,000 transfer is a result of COVID. During COVID, districts were provided free meals for all kids at an increased reimbursement rate. And so we had some excess funds that we were able to supplement, and it was only a $50,000 transfer for that year that you're referencing. Prior to COVID, as a district, we were transferring between $250,000 and $300,000. So with CEP, we're transferring $550,000. The other thing that I encourage you to kind of ponder, I guess, in your wondering about offerings through food service. With CEP, we continue to maintain being a part of the school lunch program. So in being a part of the school lunch program, our guidelines still remain intact as far as fat content, salt, all of those kind of things. So we still have to follow the same guidelines as to what we can provide. What you may be implying, Trustee Goulart, is additional available funds And those additional available funds may not allow us to deviate from the regulations that we're required to follow with being part of the National School Lunch Program. The other thing with CEP is that schools are not having to collect funds from those students who fall into a negative balance in a lunch account. So all students are treated equally, if you will. That prior to COVID, there was a practice of if a student didn't have money in their account and they came through the lunch line, there was a peanut butter and jelly sandwich available for those students. It then became such that with peanut allergies, we couldn't just have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for students. So we really have a difficulty with those negative balances. And if you look at policy right now, it says if the student has a negative balance at the end of the year, they're not going to be allowed transcripts. That could be perceived as kind of difficult as well. So I just urge some caution when we think about, do we have availability of additional dollars if we don't do CEP? We have to be careful in following the regs of the National School Lunch Program.
So going back to the days when that was in fact the policy, that if you had a negative balance, you don't get your transcripts. I think there was also a policy that you didn't get your diploma. Is that correct? That was actually a written policy, or was it just the transcript?
I think it was just the transcript, Pete.
Okay. How many students failed to get their transcripts?
I do not know in the past how many. I would have a personal problem denying any kid transcripts. I mean, you're denying education, you're denying a lot of services for an unpaid lunch account. Would be pretty difficult to deny something of that nature if that were the case. But I do not know the numbers. So
I hope
would
it
be
was
totally
zero.
speculative.
I would suspect it was zero.
It could be.
Because I'm with you. We ought not play that game. The thing about it is I think from what I understand, and I could be mistaken, but from what I understood from speaking to folks in the community, is that when we had students that had negative balances with their lunches, that often individuals or even local businesses were stepping up to cover those tabs. Boy, it'd be nice to get that back again.
We actually did not.
Yeah.
There were thousands of dollars. Actually, my principals, that was usually their undertaking every spring that we had them contacting families, paying for. Now, some of our schools did do fundraising activities. Student councils, in particular, raised a lot of funds for those. The other piece with that then came, which ones do you pay? Which ones don't you? Because it didn't cover it all. It was which students then had a reprieve on their lunch account, which ones didn't. And so that was always problematic. The other piece you had mentioned, BOCES as a deficit on there. Fortunately, through recalibration, that has been one of the positives. We do not. We had previously estimated, and actually this year, about $250,000 budget deficit there will no longer exist because that is being paid through the recalibration.
Well, I guess the point I wanted to suggest is, and we would just keep it our little secret, because nobody's listening, that if we did go back to a free reduced lunch, we would just make sure that none of our students ever missed a meal. And that meant if we ever had to have a meeting and do a transfer to cover those amounts, then we would have to do that. But nobody would know we do that because we haven't talked about it. So it would just be our secret.
So you're suggesting, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So we're suggesting accounting wise, we don't put money into the CEP program and we let lunch balances go unpaid by all students?
No.
Okay.
No, that's not at all what I'm saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying is you're going to have those circumstances where you have a student in need. And I think one of the concerns is potentially having a student that's in need, but for whatever reason, we're not getting, an application is not forthcoming for whatever reason. we're certainly not going to let that student go hungry while they're in our care, is what I'm saying. So I guess the point is, if we were to get away from CEP and go back to the free reduced lunch program, we wouldn't have children laying in the hallway starving. We certainly wouldn't allow that. None of us would allow that or tolerate that. So what I'm saying is, I think there would be mechanisms for if we have individuals that for whatever reason we can't seem to resolve their negative balance. If I had to reach out into the community and ask the churches or individual businesses to help with students that are struggling to get their balances paid off, just give me a phone call. We'll get it done. That's what I'm suggesting, is that if we were to go back to a system that's a little more fiscally responsible, that we're not going to have students slipping through the cracks and missing meals. That's not the goal, and I don't think any of us would tolerate that.
Well, Trustee Goulart, I don't think it's fiscally irresponsible to feed kids, frankly, and it's offensive, frankly. This school district has been very responsible the last 3 years or however long we've been doing this CEP program. Here we are, June 9th. We've got to have this reported to the state by June 30th. It's an untimely time, frankly, to bring this up, right? I mean, I am never, ever going to have a problem feeding kids, ever. And I don't think it's the responsibility of the community to step in to the schools to resolve this, frankly. It wasn't happening, and that's why we're here, right? The other piece of it is it's the process too that was problematic. It was the process, it was degrading, it was embarrassing. We had to have staff members that were keeping track of this and tracking people down for payments. And I mean, it's not as simple as you have portrayed it to be. And so tonight, if it is the desire of this board to not continue with the CEP, I have a huge problem with that personally. I mean, it is a hill we should die on, frankly, to feed our kids. And to say that the community is going to pick it up or the churches are going to pick it up, where have they been, right? That has not been happening. And once the CEP started happening, we can now say as a district, which is one of the things I am the most proud of this district, is that we feed our kids, every single one of them.
It's still getting paid, kids are still getting fed.
Right. So let me see if I can explain this. There's a big difference between us providing meals for students that are in need, for families that need that assistance, and a system that is essentially, we're incapable, because we're a government agency, we can't do charity. And the reason we can't do charity is because it's not our money. The best we can do is make sure that we provide meals for those that are in need, and then those that can pay ought to be purchasing their meals. That's the issue. So we've taken what is a program to make sure that none of our students are lacking nutritionally, and we've turned it into something it wasn't intended to be, and that's basically a big government giveaway. The other thing that it's done, and I know we run into the law of unintended consequences. In a lot of the discussions that I have in the community and some of the discussions I have with staff, one of the number one complaints we get is that parents aren't engaged. Okay, and I'm not saying that this would solve the problem, but this is one more instance where we've relieved all of the parents in our community of one of the most basic responsibilities you have as a parent, and that's feeding your kids a lunch and a breakfast, except for those that genuinely need the help. And again, in those circumstances where we know, because our staff, our teachers, our administrators spend a lot of time with the students. So if there's a student that's not having their nutritional needs met, and yet the application's not forthcoming, then let's address that. We have the ability, that's how it's always been done. CEP is really been, and okay, so we're only talking about a difference of a couple $100,000 in transfer amounts. That's still a substantial amount of money that can do some things, other things. Or, like I said, potentially, we could even improve the quality of what's being offered, assuming that we're not being prevented from doing that by some regulation, which that would be weird. But that's the gist of this. And that's what I mean. You don't need to be offended, Madam Chair. That's what I mean by being fiscally responsible. It is squeezing every dollar of value that we possibly can for the tax dollars that the people are paying to keep the lights on. That's all that's about.
Just a question, because it sounds like we're being, as administrator, being asked to define need. And I'm certainly not comfortable of defining which students, even though I would say my principals know their students very well, to define which ones are needy and which ones are not.
And I would add that I know that when my kids were in school that there were lots of families, and I know this, I saw it, who were too embarrassed to fill out that form. They didn't want the school secretary to know that. They didn't want the school administration to know that. And they could have used free or reduced lunch, and they did not do it. And so I think, like Madam Chair said, this is a hill that I am willing to die on, because I feel like we shouldn't pick and choose who we think needs to eat and who doesn't. And I think that that's what we're doing by going back to free and reduced, if we were to do that.
Well, to share with you as well, Trustee Goulart, you mentioned you've talked with parents and staff and so forth. I've done the same. I speak with them frequently every time I go into one of the schools, right? And one consistent message that I have received is the alleviation to every family within the school district of that financial burden of feeding their kids while they're in school. It is a basic need, but it's a basic need that we as a district can provide and have been willing to provide the last 3 years. If the argument is, well, we could put it into athletics or we could put it into, this or that, boy, I really hope that's not where we're headed. I hope that our priority is to feed kids. We are in the business of educating kids, not raising athletes, not doing all the extracurriculars. I'm sorry, coaches, but it is a basic need. And in order to learn, because that's the business we're in, is educating our kids, they need to have that basic need met, in my opinion. So,
Madam Chair, just one last thing. I didn't want to blow past Superintendent Kramer's question about need. I mean, as far as I understand, that's already been defined for us by the federal program that regulates what is free and reduced. Is that correct? As far as income levels and.
Yes, but you had referenced that we would pay off some of them, that we would choose to pay off those who were in need, and we would cover that. That's where I'm kind of getting confused on who gets to determine whether Susie's gets paid off or Billy's doesn't. I guess who gets to make that decision?
No, I think for those cases where the negative balance, for whatever reason, we can't resolve that, then we as the board would transfer that money over from the general fund and we would pay it. We would cover it. We wouldn't be picking and choosing.
So we would be in essence saying all kids with a negative balance would not have to pay. I guess I would be, what's the difference between CEP in that situation and paying off every kid's.
But in the past, when we had negative balances that didn't get resolved, we weren't denying the students their transcripts or their diplomas, so that it had to be handled some way. How was it handled then?
So what we were having was the principals, secretaries, all of them call continuously talking about collections, going to that situation. Eventually, because of the number of kids that we had before, just prior to COVID, I believe, or the first year, because the unspent balance at one of our schools, was extremely high, the student council jumped in and said, hey, we got to do something individually, and they were able to tackle some of them. And then we set up a criteria of who had the highest amounts. Those were handled first, least, or everybody got a certain amount on that list. And then we went through that process. And it was one of those that really created undue consequences. And I appreciate all the things that have been done by our student councils, but I can also tell you that the time and energy and the impact that they have made in other areas by utilizing those dollars that they weren't also have been utilized, because they didn't stop raising money for their fellow classmates. They put it in different avenues to provide for them in different ways, because we as a community do donate. And I think that's the same thing that's happened over the last 2 years. Those dollars that our community was providing didn't just stop. We didn't just stop supporting kids. They've went to other things that have continued to support our senior citizens, other adults in our communities, that they've been able to stay and say, you know what? We've met this through the CEP program. We no longer need to support that program. We can use on to other needs, because as we know, our community has an endless amount of needs that can be addressed. And we were fortunate enough to utilize federal dollars to address partially some of this. And yeah, that our increase locally has expanded, but we're taking advantage of federal programs, just like so many of our other entities within agriculture take advantage of those, so we can make sure and utilize those dollars in the best way possible, because as Wyoming, we receive a lot more money federally than we actually contribute. And so that's the best way to utilize those taxpayer dollars, is to going to the right things for kids, so we can make sure that those donations support the other needs in our communities.
Ms. Cates, did you have something?
Yeah, just real quick. I think what you would see and what you need to be aware of is that our meals served have increased exponentially. That if we were to go away from CEP and go to free and reduced meals, our meals served would decrease, and they're going to decrease twofold. There's some students who need those meals that are not going to get those meals. And then you also have those at the high school level that right now there's not the stereotype because everybody's equal. At the high school, we have a really hard time in collecting free and reduced applications because they don't want to bring the application home, parents don't want to complete it, whatever. We're going to see students, it's not just students don't have the money to pay for the meal. We're going to see students not going through the line and receiving the meal. The other thing that I think needs to be noted with CEP is that this board, the past 2 years, made the decision for CEP to be granted district-wide. We receive our numbers for direct certs school by school, and some schools have a greater need than other schools, but this board saw the need to treat everybody equally and to go CEP district-wide, so that for those families that maybe a kid went to Lincoln and then a kid went to Southeast, or a kid went to Trail and somebody went to Lingle, it was the same. You saw your neighbor, they were all getting the same meal. If we go back to free and reduced meals, everybody's not being treated the same. It's much harder on your secretaries that are there in the service line, and it's much harder on the school staff that's having to collect balances. So I think it's important to reiterate the fact that it was district-wide, not school by school.
Thank you, Ms. Cates. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, so just to be clear, the board is being asked to approve maintaining the district community eligibility provision status for the 26-27 school year so that that can be reported to the state.
I would move to approve to maintain the CEP status for the 26-27 school year.
Yeah, we're gonna take about a 10-minute recess. I just need to think through something here real quick procedurally. If we could start to come back, my intent was not this to be a huge break. All right, now that we are all back, we had a motion and a second.
Madam Chair, I would like to withdraw my motion. In consideration of what Trustee Goulart has suggested in terms of seeing a side-by-side comparison. But I actually think that's a good idea. So I would move to table this until we can have that opportunity to look at that comparison.
So one thing that I was thinking of or looking into is because we've got this June 30th deadline is, well, how are we going to meet that, right? If we table this, we can't table it till the July meeting. But we are going to have a special meeting to discuss a couple of other topics that are timely. And so we could add it to that if the board it's the desire of the board to table this matter to have those numbers, excuse me, those numbers as Trustee Goulart had suggested.
Second.
Any further discussion? I just think it's a really serious topic that we need to delve into before we make a decision. So any further discussion on tabling? Trustee Hager, you look like you had something to say. Yeah.
For inflation or something on.
I'm wondering too, like number of meals served, that's important, frankly. And I don't know, I just think we need to have a little bit more information. So we have a motion and a second to table the matter. Any further discussion on tabling it?
Madam Chair, real quick, I have going through my mind, meals served. I have dollar amount of transfer. Are there other things aside from inflation that people are interested in comparing year over year?
Where does the does that fall?
The backpack program at one time was receiving some grant money, and so they were actually requiring families to authorize their application information be carried over and used. At the present time, all money for the backpack program is on a donation basis, and so there's absolutely no eligibility for the backpack program right now. It's just a need or request basis.
So Marcy, the ISP number that we have as a district, I mean, is that where you start as if you're going to create a comparison between the two, you would use the same ISP number and just make some assumptions based on that.
I can share that school by school.
Any further discussion on tabling the matter? Okay, all those in favor of tabling the matter until a special meeting, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next is to consider approval of renewing the district property liability and vehicle insurance premium for 26-27. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor of approving renewal of the district insurance premium from July 1 of 26 through June 30 of 27 with the school risk retention program in the amount of $853,227, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? You can still vote audibly. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of contracting with Software Unlimited for annual renewal. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving contracting with Software Unlimited for the annual renewal of district accounting software from July 1 of 26 through June 30 of 27 in the amount of $10,240, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of the annual WSBA membership dues. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Any questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the annual renewal of the school board membership dues with WSBA for 26-27 in the amount of $15,040.13, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Yeah, can I get a show of hands? I'm sorry. Show of hands. All those in favor of approving the WSBA dues, please signify by raising your hand. 2, 3, 4. All those opposed? Wow, motion fails. Can we have some discussion on this for those that are voting against it? Is there concerns with belonging to the only Wyoming School Board Association? What am I missing? Nothing? No, nobody has a strong opinion one way or the other? Okay. Is your mic on? I'm sorry, Trustee Sharp. I'm having a hard time hearing you. Okay.
There we go. Other than going in November, which we pay for my ability to go, we're paying a lot of money there, $15,000. And it's a lot of money.
Sure.
And I get a few emails. I get quite a few emails. And but I'd like to see more. What are we really? I mean, there's lots of membership benefits, but
Trustee Sharp, didn't you win their award?
oh sure, I do all their membership. I do all their training that I can do and all that stuff.
Yeah, so actually
that doesn't buy my loyalty. They're not.
So actually there's a significant amount of trainings. And if you guys aren't aware of that, like we need to have that discussion because there's a significant amount of trainings.
I do their training
that are free to us as board members. Brian Farmer, the executive director, has come up to Goshen County numerous times to give us trainings just to our board individually. There are tons of resources that are available. And I'm saying this because if the board wasn't aware of that, boy, we as board members have a duty to seek that out if we're not aware. It's just sad to me that we've not had any discussion to just vote no, frankly, on the only association in the state of Wyoming for school boards. I personally attend every single month the board chair training, which has been phenomenal for me. So it saddens me that that's being taken away because it's been a huge resource. You're thrown into being a board chair and you don't always know what you're doing, and they've been a huge resource to me personally. So it's sad that that's going away without any discussion.
Oh,
You gotta make it.
I like the education I get, but I'm paying for it to go. The school district pays for me to go in November.
That's the only time.
Yeah, that's the only time. So they already pay for me to go, so we're paying $15,000 for,
All the things I just listed.
are you getting $15,000 worth?
No. Should your vote take away our ability to access anything from the WSBA?
Sure.
I'm going to access in my secretary that I associated with as my support. As time goes to the state. And also we're gonna lose access.
That's a perfect example is, do you have a problem with our school district? Do you want us to suffer? Do you want the WSBA to suffer? They don't benefit.
So do you want us to reconsider, or do you want to do personal attacks?
Simple question.
Because that makes a
You
difference.
just gave you an example, lots of examples. What's gonna happen because you voted no?
I understand, but if you're gonna personally attack me, don't expect me to change my mind.
Not a personal attack.
Well, when it
Be
says,
able to defend your vote,
yes,
and that's what we're asking you to do.
exactly, but don't personally attack me because I don't respond to that.
Trustee Sharp, nobody's being attacked.
Okay.
Nobody's being attacked. We can have a conversation.
Yes.
And we were all voted into these positions. My concern or my disappointment is no conversation occurred before a no vote, right? And that's what I'm struggling with.
And
So please let me finish. There are, maybe I'm assuming Trustee Sharp, just that there are unintended consequences of the no vote. And I think that that's what Trustee Hager was saying is now we've just punished, the district secretary. I, as the board chair, am also losing those resources. You, as board members, are losing those resources. We haven't even broached what our superintendent will now be missing as a result of that. If we're going to make these big decisions, boy, I wish we would have a conversation, educate yourselves, ask the questions, and find out what exactly we're doing here as a board.
This is also the only state organization that posts our openings. So we will no longer have state postings for openings.
I will speak to this because it goes back, probably 3 years. We were having a vote here and something similar like this happened. In fact, we were voting on PEBC. And there was only 5 members, I believe. No, there was more than that here, but there were several members here, I guess, because his mothers voted with me. Anyway, we voted down PEBC. Mr. Farmer was sitting here with one of his people watching this. And because we voted down PEBC, Madam Chair, you, Mr. Hager, you got up. Well, you didn't get up. Well, you kind of stood up and was over me, but you were criticizing me because I voted against PEBC and it did not get renewed. Calling me a conspiracy theorist and all this other stuff. And I even had brought up there because that was the time of Black Lives Matter and all these things and the white supremacy and everything that was going on. And we brought up and showed some of that stuff that they had on their website. other members of the board also voted with me on that. And it did not pass. But the two of you got up and personally called me out and criticized me for not voting for it. And you apologized to the teachers saying, oh, we're so sorry that we didn't get this passed. I don't know what to say. But then I had to apologize to the rest of the people in the audience that got up and spoke against PEBC because they didn't want it passed either. They were left out and they were the public. After that, we had a work session. Mr. Farmer and his person, whoever, I don't remember who it was that was with him, was sitting down here with us doing our work session, and he wanted a thumbs up how we were all going to work together. Except we didn't give the thumbs up, and he asked why. And we explained to him why, is because we were criticized in public rudely because you guys didn't get the vote you wanted. And he acted like it never happened. And so when we said, no, we can't work with a group like this when we get criticized like this in public, I don't think he did us any favors at all as the Wyoming School Board Association, who's supposed to work with the school boards. He acted like we didn't matter because we were not the majority, but it failed anyway. That's why I will not vote for them. I never have. And I think it's a waste of money. It's just another association and it's just another lobby group. That's all I have to say.
There's your answer, Trustee Hager. Any other discussion or questions? Well, actually, we don't need to have any more because you voted on it. We've still got a long ways to go. Next is to consider approval of purchase of grasshopper mower per district policy 3420. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Um,
Oh, wait, we meant to.
the existing mower, I just wanted to be clear, is going to be traded in. There's no attempt to resell it secondhand. It will be traded in. Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the purchase of the grasshopper mower from Frontier Outdoor Power in the total of $23,152.12, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of contracting for annual district building management and environmental control systems. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor of approving contracting with Long Mechanical Solutions for building automation and direct digital control environmental operating systems for 26-27 in the total amount of $27,588, please signify by saying aye. I need to reset. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval to contract with Final Site for district website services and communications platform per district policy 3420. May I have a motion? Is there a second? Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving contracting with Final Site for district website services and district communications platform services in the total amount of $50,000 with the first year payment due in the amount of $13,100, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of renewal of district Microsoft licensing per district policy 3420. May I have a motion?
Moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the renewal of district Microsoft licensing from SHI from July 1 of 26 through June 30 of 27 in the total amount of $42,797.46, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of contracting for Bell and Intercom systems at Lincoln and Lingle High School per district policy 3420. May I have a motion? Is there a second? Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving contracting with Converge One for the purchase and install of the single wire bell and intercom systems at Lincoln Elementary and LFL High School in the total amount of $275,940, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of contracting for residential student placement services for the 26-27 school year. This is for student number 1716. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of contracting with Judge Rottenberg Educational Center for daily educational and residential placement for student 1716 from July 1 of 26 through June 30 of 27, not to exceed $394,254.04. Please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of contracting for residential student placement services for 26-27, and this is for student number 2832. May I have a motion? Is there a second? Any discussion? Okay. This is to approve contracting with BOCES CV Ranch for educational and residential student placement services for student number 2832 from the time period of July 1 of 26 through June 30 of 27, not to exceed $315,670. Please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of contracting for student speech services for the 26-27 school year. May I have a motion? Is there a second? Any discussion?
Excuse me, sorry. Is there a way? Can we just not hire speech therapists? Is that, or is this a better option? Like what?
So it's part of all of the above, that the ability to fill in person is not attainable at this time. Also, in order for the scheduling of some, it actually is advantageous on the Tiny Eye. Trina is also on and joining us via Teams, and she can maybe answer some of those questions too. Trina, are you able to answer any of that additional?
Yeah, speech language pathologists are very difficult to find for in-person services. A lot of them have left for teleservices because I think most folks can imagine some of the benefits for that. So it's very difficult to recruit them, especially to small town like Torrington, Wyoming. You'll see two contracts. You haven't gotten to the second one. Clover Therapy, that provider actually comes on site. She lives in Laramie, so she's able to come on site a couple times a month. So we have some of that in-person piece. So, and she's built a relationship with the staff at Lincoln. She's been there 2 years now. The other contracts for Tiny Eye services, we've been with them over 10 years. And we have one therapist in particular through that company that has worked with our high school students and does a fabulous job with them. We continue to post for speech language pathologist openings, but there's just not enough of them out there for us to be able to recruit them very easily. And we have about have my numbers. We have about 170 students who need speech services, grades K through 12.
Any other questions or discussion? All right. All those in favor of approving contracting with Clover Therapy Services for student teletherapy, speech language services, and on-site services from July 1 of 26 through June 30 of 27, not to exceed $109,023, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of contracting for student teletherapy speech services for the 26-27 school year. And this is specifically with Tiny Eye. May I have a motion? Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor of approving contracting with Tiny Eye Therapy Services for student speech language teletherapy services from August 1 of 26 through June 30 of 27, not to exceed $61,250, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of Lexia Core 5 reading subscription renewal for the 26-27 school year per district policy 3420. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the purchase of 563 total Lexia Core 5 student licenses from Lexia Learning Systems in the amount of $19,915, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of purchase of replacement math consumable materials per district policy 3420. May I have a motion? Is there a second? Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving the purchase of Eureka Math student consumable materials and digital licenses from Great Minds in the total amount of $37,631.83, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, board topics for discussion. We made it through. Any topics that the board would like to discuss?
Madam Chair, I would like to address the main issue that our commenters brought to us this evening, and to see if we could have a discussion about just what can and ought we do about that. Obviously, we can reach out to our legislators. Obviously, we have some influence there, but I guess I'd like to hear a discussion about what everybody thinks about what we heard, what we need to learn, because there's plenty we don't know. So I suppose the question would be, how do we proceed from here with what was presented to us this evening?
I guess my question is, it sounded like they were wanting us to engage in some sort of an independent testing of the air quality at the school. Has this been brought to the commissioners? Is this, I mean, I don't know that we have a lot of, there's not a lot that we can do as a school board. I mean, I don't know what it is we can do for them.
I don't disagree, Trustee Steinbach. It's like, so first of all, my own child sits in that school. If there were concerns, like, we would be doing something, right? The manner in which this was brought to Mr. Williams, I found to be highly offensive. To ever claim that he is endangering children is just wrong. If you've ever met the man, right? He's devoted his entire life, professional life, to helping kids. So let's just squash that right now. The thing that I'm struggling with the most is, let's say we do put some kind of a monitor on the school. Who checks that monitor? Who pays for the monitor? Who maintains it? Like, I don't know all of these things. I would agree with you though, Trustee Steinbach, the school board is not the place to start, in my opinion. It's the county commissioners, it's the state of Wyoming, you know, the DEQ, the EPA, OSHA, like that's where this argument needs to be made, not to the local school board. My concern is, let's go down this path. And what if there are concerns with the air quality? Do we shut down that school? Like, where are we headed with this, right? We as a school board don't have the power to shut down companies. We don't have the authority to take that action. So where are we headed with this? I would encourage those that are very passionate about it, and rightly so, to go to those that actually can do something about it. The other piece of it too that frankly is bothersome to me is, if there were really legitimate concerns, why didn't these concerns come to Mr. Kramer, our superintendent of the school district, right? Have you been approached by anyone about these concerns?
I was included with Mr. Williams on the email.
Right.
But other than that, I've not had in-person conversations with anyone expressing those concerns, other than what I've of course, everyone has heard throughout the community, social media and those type of things, but I've not been engaged in those conversations.
Right. So it's hard to say, like, is this actually an issue? Do we actually have a problem? I don't know. I appreciated, Mr. Foster's testimony today because like he's in the building and he is seeing those things. But I also would have expected that if it was a problem or a concern, that is something Mr. Williams would have brought to our attention, or to at least at a minimum, the attention of the superintendent, right? So I just personally feel like if there are legitimate concerns that they need to be taken to those that can take action and do something about it, short of closing down a school, which is frankly the only thing the school board can do about this subject.
Madam Chair, no analogy is perfect, and I don't expect this one to be, but if we discovered with a Geiger counter that that school was radioactive, there wouldn't be a question about shutting it down. We'd shut it down tonight. So we're in the midst of a break. If we need to determine whether or not there is in fact a legitimate safety hazard to our students, I think it very much is our responsibility to know that. Now, sure, we're not in a position, we're not legislators and we're not regulators. We can't shut anybody down, but we've made noise in the past for political reasons, and we have influence and we ought to use it. I've suggested that before. When there's issues that are important to us as a district, we ought to use our influence as best we can. What I'd like to find out is it in fact, is this an issue as presented? Is it legitimate? From the sounds of it and from some of the quick information that I've seen, and I am not at all researched in this or an expert in this, but I have seen some information that does raise an eyebrow. At the very least, we need to ask the right questions and find out, do we have a legitimate concern here? And then we can figure out where to go. But I'd say step one is finding out for sure, do we or do we not actually have an issue that needs to be addressed by somebody?
And so how do you propose we go about that?
Well, I mean, I could spitball some ideas. Would it be appropriate for the district to call DEQ and say, hey, this has been presented to us as a concern? What do you guys know? What can you share with us? Is there going to be any follow-up? Give us your plan, DEQ, what's going on? And perhaps even EPA, if they're in on this deal. I'm not sure. I'm assuming EPA probably also has an interest in this. But those are probably the first two questions I would ask would be of those two agencies. What do you know? Is this legitimate? Ought we be concerned? And what's your plan?
You ever called the DEQ before? Have you ever called the DEQ before?
No, but I imagine it's going to be just hours of pleasantness. Yeah.
They will not answer those questions, in my experience.
So if a district is calling, if a school district, a county government agency, which is essentially what we are, is calling because we've been advised that there's
a county or government entity, we're a special school district under statute. So just to be very clear,
okay.
There's a difference between a government agency. But my concern is, so let's have Mr. Kramer call the DEQ and they say no problem. Then what do? We just move on? I mean, is that what we're proposing we do?
You're assuming that's going to be their answer. Based on
have a clue
based on some of the information that we're seeing, DEQ has been well aware that this is a problem. So we don't know. Maybe they would say that, and then we'd have to figure out what the next step would be. But that's really where we're at right now is we don't know what we don't know.
We don't.
If we become aware, if the community brings to us information that there may be a physical health threat to our children, all of a sudden, that becomes something we need to look at. Where we are on the governmental totem pole, I don't know, maybe that, I guess it doesn't help us that we are just a school district, but we are charged with making sure that these children are safe. We've had that discussion in these board meetings before about how our responsibility is to make sure these students are safe. This would fall under that category.
I wonder if the school district could make a request to the county commissioners and to the town of Yoder so that we're not getting the runaround? I don't know. And I don't know if they can answer those questions. I don't know. I mean, there's no question, like, we all don't agree on everything, but we agree on keeping kids safe, right? My own kid sits in that building, my own niece and nephew, friends of, you know, they work in that building. So it is important. Don't get me wrong. I don't know that it's appropriate to bring it to the school district, right? And so what can the school district do? Maybe we make a request to the county commissioners. I don't know. I will tell you, I've spoke with the current and former town of Yoder mayors about this. Like, what do you guys have information wise? And what they've shared with me is that they've also received the runaround from the DEQ. So that's why I'm kind of just like, I don't know that asking the DEQ for anything is going to help us or help anyone, frankly.
Well, one other possibility would be Senator Steinmetz, Representative Smith, Representative Williams. As I understand it, Representative Williams is on the Education Committee. I don't know if that would give him any extra special attention or not. But perhaps getting a hold of them and letting them know, hey, we have been officially approached as a board during an official meeting about this issue. And actually, I have heard from Senator Steinmetz that she has had calls into DEQ previously on this issue. I don't think she's gotten any answers to her satisfaction, but perhaps now that we've been approached, they would be an avenue by which we could reach out to them and say, look, this has now come to us. We need your help getting through to DEQ and getting some answers.
I'd be more than willing to do that, to reach out to our representatives and senator. Absolutely. I guess my biggest caution is just like us not stepping into something that we don't have the authority to do, right? But we absolutely can be reaching out to our representatives and senator and the county commissioners. Anything else? Yes.
I think you folks have covered most of what I was thinking. The only thing else I wanted to cover is, now that this is becoming a more public issue, I want to just be aware of it may come to hit us in the Southeast schools, possibly parents starting to transfer their kids or something. Any parents that become finding it an issue and deciding that they don't want their kids going to Southeast, they may decide to start transferring.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Well, no,
we don't even know that we have a problem.
No, I know.
So let's not be like making this, like, Facebook, in my opinion, is so dangerous and ridiculous because it's not real life, right? And this thing has just really taken off on Facebook. So we don't even know if we have a problem yet. I hear your concerns, but just to be clear, we don't even know if we have a problem.
Okay, Madam Chair, I didn't mention Facebook. I was just talking about the school board meeting, and now this is public, and now it's out there publicly being discussed. And so parents are listening. And so they just need to know that we're going to do everything we can to mitigate this. That's within our power, because we don't want this to hurt our schools. But we also we want to take care of our kids and our staff. It's not just about our kids. Our staff is also in this.
Anything
Anyway,
else?
thank you.
Okay.
I do one more.
Oh,
You're
sure.
to the point of board topics.
And I was gonna
You got one or-
I was gonna reiterate the evaluation for our superintendent in July. You have one beyond that even? Okay. No, go ahead.
I do one other thing, and this goes back to the WSBA. And I want our teachers to know, because now we are no longer involved in the WSBA. Those who have elected to be provided with the $20,000 life insurance policy and the $2,000 for spouses and dependents will not have access to that. We had 3 claims on that this year. So when we make those decisions without discussion and without informing us as the drawbacks and things that happen with that and those decisions we make, Communication is really, really, really important. And whether vote yes or no, that is in the end, but not knowing what the ramifications of those actions are, is challenging for us.
It's not educated. Oh, no, I don't care if you. Pride is causing. It's gonna happen. I'm sorry, mistakes. Sorry, this. Never occurred.
Or the individual impact it had on you as a board member, as opposed to looking at the big picture. And it's our duty as board members to take care of the entire district. All right, any other discussion topics? We cover everything? We will circulate a poll to do the special board meeting to discuss the superintendent mid-year evaluation, as well as I think there might be a couple other topics.
Construction things.
Okay, construction and then the item that we tabled. So there will be future meeting July 14th of 26th. That will be the annual district budget hearing that will be conducted in conjunction with the regular July board meeting. And with that, we are adjourned.